What's up, everybody? It's your boy Kev. Welcome back to Intunes. So about 2 videos I had did Toy Story unboxing of Funko Pops and DC's World's Finest Collections. Definitely go check that out. But in I think one of those videos I had mentioned that I was going to do a video of how to drive stick, a manual, if you will, standard vehicle. And that's the car that's like in the Fast and Furious movies where you have to shift to each gear in order to keep moving. And the only reason why I'm doing this now is because I kind of have free time to do it. So I just wanted to, I guess, get started, and we'll see where this takes us from here. So please just be patient, because patience is key when it comes to learning how to drive stick. Pretty much there are different YouTubers out here that have videos 5 years, 6, almost to a decade of as long as it goes that they recorded. So it's not like I'm adding anything different. It's not like I'm putting a new twist. It's not like I'm saying that what I'm going to show you is a lot more better. I'm not going to say that my way is a little bit more simpler. I'm just doing it because I have a stick shift. I wanted to record something like this for newcomers who want to learn how to drive stick. So what do you need to have in order to drive stick if you don't have the car already? What you can use is a chair. I would say about 3 stuffed animals. If you have kids, use that. If you don't have kids, it doesn't have to be stuffed animals. It can be whatever, just 3 items, so that way you can place it by your feet. And you want to have a plunger. Buy a new plunger if you want to, or use the plunger that you already have. But those are what you need in order to learn how to drive a stick. In the car, in your house, before you wind up getting inside of a car. If you already have a car, you don't need to worry about those things, because you got your stick, you got your 3 pedals. So I'm about to show you guys exactly what each pedal is, what they do. All right. So for those of you who are new to driving manual cars, pretty much similar thing. Your gas pedal, your brake pedal. And in addition to the standard, you'll have your clutch. Now, same thing, same method. You go, you brake, and then you clutch to shift into each gear. Now, as you notice, I'm using my left foot to show you instead of trying to reach my right foot over here, because it's just impossible. So, when you start the car, you're going to have your foot on the brake, hold it down as if you're coming to a complete stop, and then the clutch push all the way down to the floor to start the car. Now that's the only time you're ever going to need to. Like what I do is I normally have my foot, when I push it in, I'm normally leaning back in my chair to hold it all the way down. That's the only time you're ever going to need to do that, is when you're starting the car. When you're shifting to each gear and you're using the clutch, you'll never have to worry about holding it all the way down. Now there are methods, and we'll talk about that once we get into that part. So that's that for right now. Let's head over to the stick. Now each stick is different for each car. You'll have your reverse, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Depending on what kind of car you have, some reverses are here like mine, and the other reverses are down here. And some cars go to 6 gears, and some cars go only up to 5th gear. Like that. That's what it would be like. So pretty much, we're not going to worry about reverse. That's self-explanatory. We'll get to it when we get to it, but we don't need to worry about that for right now. What we do need to worry about is how to remember where each gear is at. So if you're at home and you have your setup for your pedals, gas, brake, clutch, your plunger will be your substitute as a stick. So just think of your mind. If you have a 5-speed gear, just think of an H waving high. If you wind up getting a 6-gear car, I don't know what to think of it, but or to compare it as, but just that's what that is. So that being said, when you want to shift to first gear, you go all the way to your left, and like where the number 1 is, all the way to your left and forward. And then all the way back to the left is your second. Bring it in the middle. Forward will be your third. Bring it straight back will be your fourth. And then bring it all the way to the right and your fifth. You bring it all the way to your right, straight back is your sixth. You'll never wind up needing to go into 5th or 6th gear. And in a little bit, I'll show you why. Now the car is off. And you can shift into each gear you want, just as I'm doing right now. So it doesn't matter as long as the car is off. If the car is on and running, then you'll need to hold the clutch in. But for right now, we're worried about the car being off. So, and we have the emergency brake on. Emergency brake is very important. If you're in an automatic car, you put your emergency brake on for safe, for a safety net, if you will. But outside of that, if you have a manual car, have this on, because if you don't, it's always in neutral. And what I mean by it's always in neutral is it's in the middle. We're not in gear, right? So we're able to wiggle and move it around. It's in neutral. If the emergency brake is not on, the car will roll if you're on a hill. So emergency brake should always be on when you park your car. Back to the stick. Like I said, it's self-explanatory. Your first, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, and your sixth. And while you're shifting into each gear, so I'm going to do this real quick. Clutch in, shift to first gear, right? And then you're going to slowly release your foot. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now, here's why I'm saying you probably will never see 5th or 6th gear when you're driving at all. If you only have a car that goes up to 5th gear and there's no 6th gear and it only goes up to 5th, then it might be a little bit more easier for you to remember this. Now I'm gonna just start the ignition and have the car on and running. Not running, but just and run, but not started. Okay. So the things you need to worry about. You have your miles per hour, which will always, be like that. I'll move my hand so I can focus. Miles per hour. And then what most people normally don't ever pay attention to is your RPM. Now, there's 3 indications to let you know when you need to shift into each gear. When this needle is at the 3,000 mark, at the number 3, that's when you know I need to shift gear. When you hear the engine screaming at you or like real loud, that's when you know you need to shift gear. And your third and last indication, which if you're a beginner, you'll always pay attention to this. So for 6-speed cars, when you're going in first gear, 5 miles per hour, which would be this little stick, this little line here. Focus. That's when, okay, I'm in first gear, I can keep moving. Once we get up to 15 miles per hour, that's when I need to shift. Once you're at 15, the car will make its noise and your RPM will be at number 3. Shift gear. Now, going from second gear, that's when you'll be in second gear. Going from second gear to third gear, And what I've noticed in my 6-speed car, when I'm at 30 miles per hour and the RPM is at 3,000 and the engine is pretty much loud, that's when I shift into third gear. Shifting from third to fourth, I now have a lot more wiggle room or driving space to go from 30 to 50. And then, 30 to 50. And when I'm at 50 miles per hour, the engine is roaring. My RPM will be at 3,000 or number 3. And the only reason why I say 3,000 is because as you can see, under RPM, it says 1,000. So each number is 1,000. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4, 5, 6, 7. You never want to be below 2,500, and you don't want to be too high over 3,000. So 3,000 is your safety, is the number to switch. So number 3 is the number to switch each gear. When you see the needle up at number 3, that's when you need to start switching. It might be okay to go just a little bit over the shift gears, but number 3. And if you accidentally shift gears at 2,500, in between the 2 and the 3, that's okay sometimes, but you really want it to be at number 3. And so that's how you'll know. Those are the 3 indications to know when you need to shift gear: the miles you're going, the engine roaring, and the needle being at number 3. It's important to remember those things because that can help you being able to shift gears. And after a while, everything's not going to be smooth and easy, but it will be a lot more easy. After you get used to it, it'll be a lot more better. All right, so pretty much this method is what we're going to be working on to learn. Your right foot is always the gas and the brake. Your left foot is always the clutch. So the method that we want to get in the habit of is knowing when to put on the clutch and let your foot off the gas pedal, and when to let off the clutch and put your foot on the gas pedal. It's very hard, it's very difficult, but after a few trials and errors that you'll have while practicing in the actual car, it's perfectly fine. If the car starts to shake and then eventually turn off on you, that is perfectly fine. Failure is always the key. If you never fail in life, you'll never succeed. Failure is always the key. So if you're young and you're listening to this, no matter how many times you fail, no matter how many times you fall, you always have to get back up, because there's only one way up if you're down. If you're down, there's only one way up. So that's what we need to focus on. All right. So you'll have the gas pedal and your clutch. So if you're driving, all right, let's say you're in first gear, right? You're driving. Now you're going 15 miles. Now you're getting up to 15 miles per hour. You need to switch from first gear to second gear. So now you're going to slowly put the clutch in and release the foot off the gas pedal, and then now you can shift into second gear. I'll do that. Now we're in second gear. Now I'm going to release the clutch slowly and put my foot back on the gas pedal at the same time. This is the method we have to figure out with your feet. Your hands is kind of like you can do this. It's simple. With your foot, you can do the same thing, but if you're never used to using your left foot for however long you've been driving automatic, it's always going to be difficult. So take your time. So slowly releasing off the clutch and giving it gas, gradually giving it gas. And now even if you start to feel a little jerk in the car, that's fine, because you're getting used to it. Switching from first gear to second gear is always the difficult part of driving a manual car. After you get out of first gear, switching from second to third gear to fourth gear, it's a piece of cake. All right, so here we are again. So I'm gonna do, let's say we're already driving, right? Gas pedal. Now we need to switch from, we had in second, now we need to switch from second to third gear. So we're gonna do slowly releasing off at the same time, slowly releasing off and slowly putting our foot on the clutch. Clutch in, gas pedal foot off. Now we're going to, third gear. Now I'm going to slowly release off the clutch and slowly put my foot on the gas pedal. So, but as I'm saying slowly off, slowly on, you're doing it at the same time. They have to be in unison. Your feet have to be in unison. So now that's going from first to second to third. Okay. Now it's important also to remember that while you're shifting with your foot, and it's hard, it's difficult. I even have to do this from time to time. I have to have your left foot, like it's hard to show you. Your left foot has to be straight up down, perfectly straight up, straight down. It can't be to the side, slanted. You can't be lazy with your foot. It has to be straight up and down. It's always easier that way. That way, when you apply the pressure to the clutch and release that pressure from the clutch, it's always a smoother transaction. So if you can, at best, you want to make sure that your feet, for both clutch and gas, is straight up and down. I think we're going to do a quick road test. I'll probably go around the block. I have my wife with me, and I'll have her probably sit in the back to give you guys that perfect view of what I mean. So yeah. Hey. All right, we're gonna go for a quick road drive. So foot on brake. You can see that. Foot on the brake, as if I'm braking to stop. I'm gonna push the clutch all the way in. It's on the floor. Car started. Bam. Now it's important to note, if you're on a hill facing down or up, when you have your emergency clutch in, it's always best to put the car in gear. When you're like, let's say you're parked on a uphill, you want to put the emergency brake on, put the stick in gear. Depending if you're up and you're parked on the right hand side, turn the wheel to the right. So that way, in case the emergency brake fails, you know, if it rolls back, at least it rolls back touching the curb. That's just a little trick. But you know, if you put it in gear and the emergency brake is on, in case the emergency brake fails, then because it's already in gear, it shouldn't budge. Older cars might start to do that. That's why you wanted to practice that on older cars. More brand newer cars, they don't really have that much of a problem. All right, so now we're about to pull off. Okay, I got my foot on the brake. I'm disengaging the emergency brake. Have my foot on the clutch pushed in. I'm putting the car in gear. Now, I'm taking my foot off the brake, and I'm slowly and I don't even need to release the clutch, and my car is moving. Okay, I'm going 1 mile per hour, 2 miles per hour. I'm slowly releasing the clutch, and then I'll pick up speed. 4 miles per hour. I'm giving it gas now. Okay. Now we're in first gear. Once I hit 15 miles per hour, foot in, clutch, going to second gear. I shifted at 14 miles per hour. 15 is key, but remember, as long as it's at a 3,000 RPM, you're perfectly fine. Okay? At the stop sign, clutch in, giving it gas. Oh, don't let her cross. All right, giving it gas, releasing off the clutch, simultaneously at the same time in unison. Now we're reaching 15 miles per hour. Clutch in, shifts back, gas. All at the same time. Now, it's important to note, like I said, you'll never ever really see fifth and sixth gear. It's because the car is going fast enough that you'll rarely be able to see it. The only time you'll ever see fifth and sixth gear is if you're on the highway and it's saying, no speed limit. So, we're to 15 miles per hour, and boom. Now, if you have a jerk, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to have that jerk. That means you're learning. If the car winds up shutting off on you, it's fine. Don't worry about the cars behind you honking. Don't worry about none of that. Start the car back up and start over again. Just keep in mind that, okay, you released the clutch a little bit more faster and you didn't put your foot on the gas pedal. Okay, so the next time, just make sure you do that. So, we're approaching a stop sign. And I don't know, baby, if you can try to get closer to my RPM so you can see what I'm saying. RPM right here. You can see it?
Somewhat.
All right, you see that needle moving. It's reaching 3,000. My MPH, my miles per hour, was at 15. On a much stronger, longer road, I can almost reach for third gear. We'll try for that at another road. Okay. Turn off that start stop. All right. Reaching almost 3,000. 15. Engine was loud. Shift gear. All right. I don't know if I'll make this light. Maybe I will. 3,000. 30 miles per hour. Engine was roaring. Now I'm in third gear. Shifting to each gear, it's kind of like when you're beginning, you'll pay attention to those type of things. You're going to pay attention to those type of things. But it's important that, even though you want to see where you are and what you're doing as far as the dash goes, always keep in mind to keep your eyes on the road. So quick glances. I hear the engine roaring. I see that I'm at 3,000 RPM and I was at 15 miles per hour. So now I know I need to shift gears. And after a while, you're going to start to realize, okay, I don't need to pay attention to my RPM. I can just pay attention to the sound of my miles per hour. All right, there you go. Now, as you brake, you can put your foot on the clutch, so that way you get out of gear. It's important to note that every time you shift gears, you have to use the clutch. And I'm pretty sure my wife just jerked because that was something that just happened. I just jerked the car. Keep going. Okay. Now I'm going 25 miles per hour, and the RPM was at the middle mark of 2,000. It was in between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM. So the engine might sound like it was starting to roar, but we're not at 3,000 RPM, so there's no need to shift to a higher gear. And that's pretty much that, RPM is at 3,000. Miles per hour says that number that you should switch at, and the engine is roaring. Sometimes you're going to have a smooth transaction. If you want a smooth transaction, get in the habit of having your feet vertically straight up, your gas pedal and your clutch pedal. Because when you have your foot straight up, when it comes back, that's your foot leaving the clutch. And when you have your gas pedal vertically straight up, it's a lot more easier to go down and up. I'll open up the window because I'm getting hot. If you ever see people play around in the clutch, like the car goes back and forth, try not to do that. You're going to wind up messing up your vehicle. You're going to mess up the clutch pattern. So here we are, 15 miles per hour, clutch in, shift gear, bam. Now, what helped me out from time to time was have both hands on the steering wheel. And for some reason, I always just felt comfortable every time I switched gears. Is that when I switched the gear and I put my hand back on the steering wheel, it's a lot more smoother. Some people don't like to stop completely at stop signs, so what I normally do is I coast up and then I shift to the gear. Not saying that's the best way, but that's just something I do. Now here comes the reverse part. Okay? Now my reverse is all the way up to my front left. So this is a little knob, it goes up and down. This red part comes up and down. I hold that in, and that goes all the way to the left. It's pretty much in the same position where the first gear is, but you hold it up, it just goes a little bit further to the left. Now, while you're in reverse, what you can do is just slowly let your foot off the clutch, and the car will start to move backwards. And then, if you need to brake, use your foot to brake, but make sure you have your foot on the clutch. And then sometimes, to give it like a lot more gas, if you want to back up, just as you with the same method, release the foot off the clutch and push your foot on the gas pedal, and it builds up the speed you need to reverse. So I'm parked. I'm putting on the emergency brake. That's on. I'm on a hill, but like I said, only older cars need that emergency brake and shift into a gear. And then that's that. So just try to remember those things. You have to use your left foot, so get used to using it a lot more now that you have a clutch. And try to remember to keep your both feet, your left foot and your right foot, vertically straight up and down. So that way when you're shifting, it only goes further. Now, as far as back as your foot goes, that's when that's when I need to give it gas and I can release my foot off the clutch. And try to memorize the stick. So the stick. Try to memorize it. If you got a stick shift car and you're watching either my YouTube or somebody else's YouTube on how to drive a stick, just go over, sit in the car, all the way to the left, forward, backwards. Bring it back in the middle, all the way up, forwards, all the way back. Bring it all the way to the right, straight forward, straight back. That is your gear. So, I hope this helps you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to say thank you to my beautiful wife for helping me record this video. As always, I've been Kev, you've been you. Stay safe and stay in tune.